Okay, these are the notes for the trigonometry unit that we're going to start. What we are going to do first is just basically find missing angles, but you are going to use what are called these trigonometric ratios. These are known as sine, cosine, and tangent. They are buttons on your calculator. So before you even start this unit, make sure you have a graphing calculator with you, because these are the buttons that we are going to use. What's going to happen now is you're going to have right triangles that you can't use Pythagorean theorem to find the angles, and you are going to have to use either what's called sine, cosine, or tangent, because you can't use your 45, 45, 90 rules, and you can't use your 30, 60, 90 rules, okay? So the first slide that we have here, let me get out of this, is, okay, so if, first of all, if you look on your graphing calculator before we even start, you have to make sure that your calculator is in what's called degree mode, because the angles are measured in degrees. So I'm going to switch to my calculator, and I'm going to clear this, and what you're going to have to do is go up near the top left to the right of the blue second button, and where you see the word mode, you're going to have to click mode, and make sure, go down to the third one. If your calculator is what's on called radian, take it off and put it on what's called degree. But before you change it to degree, I'm changing right now between radian and degree, make sure it's on degree. You're going to have to hit the enter button. All right, and then to get back to a clear screen, hit the second button, and then the button to the right of it says quit right above mode, and that'll give you a clear screen. So I'm going to hit second and the button to the right of it, which is quit. Now I'm back to a clear screen. Now I'm ready to go. Okay, so make sure you do that on your calculator. Make sure you have a calculator, or there's no way you're going to be able to solve these problems. Okay, now you're going to use what is called sine, cosine, and tangent. On your calculator, 2 buttons above the number 7 button is the word SIN. That is short for what's called sine. Sine is basically the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. All right? Sine is abbreviated SIN. All right, so that's sine. Cosine is abbreviated COS. That's what it says on your calculator. It is 2 buttons above the number 8. Cosine stands for the adjacent side. That means right beside you. Remember adjacent angles. So the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And tangent, that's the last one here, that is above the number 9. That's 2 buttons above the number 9. It's abbreviated TAN. It stands for the opposite divided by the adjacent side. Now, just like you remembered, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, there's a short way to try and remember sine, cosine, and tangent. It's called SOH, CA, TOA. Let that be your cheat sheet right there. SOH, CA, and TOA. SOH is short for sine, and sine is equal to the O divided by the H. That's opposite divided by hypotenuse. So I'm just going to put O over H. Cosine, that's this one here, is A divided by H. A stands for adjacent, H stands for hypotenuse. And the last one, tangent, is TOA. Well, that stands for opposite divided by adjacent. So tangent is opposite divided by the adjacent side. All right? And again, if you get confused, you can go back and watch this video as many times as you like. All right, so we're still dealing with right triangles, but it depends on where you're standing at the triangle. This angle is 90 degrees. We know that. How do we know that? We see the box, the square right there. That one's 90. This angle we don't know. So the way that I always teach this is pretend you're standing right here. All right? The hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. That never changes. But depending on where you're standing, this side is the farthest away from me. It's called the opposite. This side is the closest to me. It's called adjacent. Remember, adjacent angles were beside each other. The adjacent side is the closest side to you. So this is called adjacent. Why is that not called the adjacent? Because that's always the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, and it's always the biggest angle. Now, if I'm standing here, this is opposite, this is adjacent, that's hypotenuse. But if I was standing up here, it would be different. This would be the hypotenuse still, but now that A to B would be the adjacent, and this piece down here would be my opposite. All right? So, when we start just talking about the ratios, all that means is where are you standing and what is the relationship? All right? And again, what I would do, and you'll hear me say this over and over, write your cheat sheet at the very top. So, that means sine is opposite over adjacent, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and TOA, tangent, is opposite over adjacent. Now what this is asking for is what is the sine of A? What is the ratio of the opposite over the adjacent? That means you're standing at angle A. So if I'm standing here, then opposite over hypotenuse. Well, if I'm standing at A, who is opposite me? What's the side farthest away from me? That would be the 8. What side is the hypotenuse? That would be 17. That's it. That's all you got to do. It's not asking you the angle measure. It's just asking you what's the ratio. All right, the next one says cosine. Look at your cheat sheet. Cosine is the adjacent side of you divided by the hypotenuse. Well, again, it's the cosine of A. I'm standing at A. Well, who is adjacent? What side is right beside me? That would be 15. Who's the hypotenuse? That's never going to change. That's 17. That's it. It's just asking for the ratio. And then tangent. Remember, look at your cheat sheet. What's tangent up here? Opposite over adjacent. So if tangent is opposite over adjacent, then who is opposite of me? 8. Who is adjacent of me? 15. That's your answer. That's it. All right? All right, let's look at the next one. This time it says find the trig ratios for angle R. Okay, well now I'm here. If this is a telephone pole, I'm standing up at the top of the pole. I still have an opposite, adjacent, and a hypotenuse, but they're going to be a little bit different than the previous one. So remember, make your cheat sheet. So, TOA. Okay, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. I'm going to put O over H. All right, if I'm up here now, who is opposite of me? Who's farthest away? It would have to be the 12. All right, so that's going to be 12. Who's still the hypotenuse? Remember, the hypotenuse is the biggest piece in the triangle. It's 12 over 13. That's it. All right. Cosine. What is cosine? Adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm going to put an A over H. Again, I'm up here at R. So who's adjacent or right beside me is the 5. Who's the hypotenuse? 13. All right, and then the last one is tangent of R. Again, what was tangent? Opposite over adjacent. So who's opposite me? 12. Who's adjacent from me? 5. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. It's 12 over 5. Leave it. That's it. That's all it's asking. You don't have to do anything with it. We're not finding an angle yet. I'll show you how to do that next. Okay? All right. So if we were in class, we would talk about these, but this is what you would do. This time, it's the sine of N. That means you're standing up here. So if it's a telephone pole, you're up top working at the top of the telephone pole. All right, so sine of N. Again, keep doing the cheat sheet until you remember it. So, TOA. Okay, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So if I'm standing at the top of the pole, who's opposite of me? 35. Who's the hypotenuse? 37. That's it. Cosine of N. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm standing at the top of the telephone pole. Who's adjacent? 12. Who's the hypotenuse? 37. That's it. All right. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. So who's opposite of me? 35. Who's beside me or adjacent me? 12. That's it. Those are your answers right there. It's pretty simple. All right. Now, you use these to actually find angle measurements. So now we're just taking this one extra step, and then that's basically the lesson for today. So if we want to find the measure of angle A, we have enough information here. So again, let's go and do our cheat sheet. So, ka, and toa. I need to find the measure of angle A. And again, whatever angle you're looking for, that's where you're standing. Okay? Now, first of all, you have to establish what is 9 and what is 15 to you if you're standing at A. Well, he's the farthest away or opposite me. So 9 is opposite. 15 is hypotenuse. So I have an O and an H, which is the only one of these that uses an O and an H. That sign. So here's the only difference. When you go to find an angle on your calculator, you actually have two buttons where sine, cosine, and tangent are. One of them is in blue, and then one of them is the regular button. To find an angle, you have to use the second button. It's called inverse. Okay. So today's lesson, you're 100% using the second button on your calculator. So first of all, I needed to establish who was opposite and who was hypotenuse. 9 was opposite, and 15 was hypotenuse. So my sine ratio is sine 9 over 15. But since I'm finding an angle, I'm going to have to use what's called inverse sine or just second sine. So on your calculator, you're going to have to hit the second button, then you're going to hit the sine button, and then you're going to hit 9 divided by 15. So let's go to the calculator real quick. Again, you got to have a calculator. Okay, so let's go back to the graphing calculator. Make sure I'm going to hit the mode button, which is to the right of second. It should be third one down on degree. It is, so I'm good to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to hit the second button, then the sine button. And if you look at the sine button, it says sine to the -1. That's how you find angles. The regular sine button you use to find side lengths. We're not doing that till the next lesson. So you're going to hit second, then the sine button, second, sine, and then you're going to hit 9 divided by 15. And then all you need to do is hit enter. That is your answer right there. Now, if I say to the nearest degree, that 36.8 rounds up to 37. If I say to the nearest tenth, that would be 36.9 degrees. Let's go to the nearest degree. So 36.8 is 37 degrees. So let's go 37 degrees. So this angle is equal to 37 degrees. That's all you're going to have for homework tonight is just finding missing angles. All right? And that one used sine. Okay. Let's look at this one. This one says find the measure of angle R. So let's find angle R first. And again, you're standing at R. So let's do our cheat sheet. So, ka, toa. Okay, so if I'm standing at R, that's opposite. And he's right beside me. He's adjacent. So which one uses an O and an A? Which one uses an O and an A? That's tangent. So I'm going to have to do second tangent, 7 divided by 10. Now the calculator will always put it in parentheses. You can close the parentheses if you want to, but you don't have to. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to clear this. I'm going to hit second, then the tan button. That's 2 above 9. And then I'm going to do, let's go back, what were those two numbers, 7 and 10? So let's do 7 divided by 10. 7 divided by 10, hit enter. 34.99, you can round it up to 35 degrees. Alright, so let's go back to this guy. So angle R is 35 degrees. Now, if you had to find angle Q, remember we already know P is 90. So if you had to find angle Q, now you're standing here. Well, let's establish that guy's opposite me, and that guy's adjacent. So again, wait a minute, who uses O and A again? It's still tangent, But this time it's going to be second tangent. Remember, it's opposite divided by adjacent, so it's going to be 10 divided by 7. So it's not going to be the same as this one. So second tangent, 10 divided by 7. All right, so I'm going to clear this. Second tangent, 10 divided by 7, hit enter, 55 degrees. Alright, so this one's 55. And again, what's the rule? What do all the angles in a triangle have to add up to? 180. 55 plus 35 plus 90, guess what? 180 has to work. Okay? And that one used tangent. Alright, let's do D. And then that'll be the last one. We'll do solving for sides at the next lesson. I do separate them. Okay, so solve for D. That means you're standing at D. If you understand that whatever angle you're looking for, that's where you're standing, you don't need to draw the stick figure every time. But I would highly recommend drawing the cheat sheet, so Katoa, as much as possible. Okay, so let's establish. He is right beside me, so that's adjacent, because remember, that's opposite. So I don't have an opposite. I have an adjacent, which is 16, and I have a hypotenuse. So when I look at my cheat sheet, who uses an A and an H? Oh, it's that guy, cosine. But I'm finding an angle, so on my calculator, I'm going to hit second cosine, and I'm going to do, again, it's A over H. It's not 22 over 16, it's 16 over 22. If you type it wrong, it's going to say error. All right, the hypotenuse is always on the bottom for sine and cosine. So second cosine, 16 divided by 22. So I'm going to clear it. Second cosine, 16 divided by 22. Hit enter. 43.3. I'd leave it at 43 degrees. Round it to the nearest degree, it's 43 degrees. All right, and that's it. So D, this angle right here, angle D, is 43 degrees. They didn't ask for angle F. Angle D is just 43 degrees. All right. Now, I'm going to just go back. Your homework for tonight, it'll be in an assignment folder, and it should be, let me go back real quick. It should be 16.7. So you should see, yep, this right here. Okay. Now, again, what you need to do is either, you can print it off if you want to, or just draw the triangles. All you're doing is finding the missing angles. So it should be, yeah, okay. So should be this one here. All right. So for example, this one right here, you're just finding angle L. All right. So if I had to find angle L, I'm standing right here. If you want to draw the person, you can. Make your cheat sheet. So Katoa. Okay. That's an opposite, and that's a hypotenuse. Which one uses a O and a H? Sine. So you're going to have to hit second sine 8 divided by 15. Now I'm not going to switch back to my calculator. I'm going to use my one here. Second sine 8 divided by 15. Should be 32 degrees. So that answer is 32. All right, and that's literally all you're doing for homework. So wherever it's listed, I'll do this one for you. A, again, if you want to draw the person, you can. He's got a very large head. That is right beside you, so that's adjacent. And that's a hypotenuse. So when I look at my cheat sheet, who has A and H, that's cosine. So all you're simply going to type in is second cosine A divided by H. So make sure you do 6 divided by 9. All right, so I'm going to do second cosine 6 divided by 9, and that's 48 degrees. And that's it. Okay, if you want to print it off and actually do the puzzle, that's fine. Otherwise, just draw the triangles, and then we'll go over these the next time you're in class. Make sure you upload it so I can give you the 5 points credit for it. All right, and if you got questions, send me an email. I'll see you later.